Lisa Vetten is from the Gauteng Care Crisis Committee, representing more than 80 social welfare organisations. She's even taken the government to court on behalf of them. Lisa, are we really facing the prospect of another Life Esidimeni crisis? Are things really that bad?
There really could be. I mean, one of the things we have to take into account is that government offers in Gauteng offers exactly 2 residential facilities for people with disabilities that accommodate 167. NPOs run 32 that accommodate 1,600 people. Where will they go if their funding doesn't come through? It's also been people in drug rehab centres, inpatient centres, child and youth care centres, domestic violence shelters, any kind of residential facility which is really someone's home, where their rights to food may be compromised, obviously affecting their nutrition, their rights to care. In some facilities you do also have nursing care provided as well, your access to social workers and other kinds of support. All that was placed under threat by the department, who also have taken no responsibility in any way for recognising their part in this. Their attitude has been, when one has said to them, the organisation is going to close. Oh well, they must close in a responsible manner and let us know, and we'll make a plan. That means you failed to think about the consequences of your actions at the time as to what the effects of your very poor decision making were going to be.
So at the end of June, where are we now?
The department has really dragged its feet in attempting to meet the court order. It certainly helped. It did spur them on, but money is trickling in very, very slowly. They did put in place these interim SLAs. They're interim contracts which at least buy time and give organisations funding until the end of August. However, the way those contracts are written, there's a good likelihood that we may face a similar scenario again in September. So we have to use this time now to make sure it doesn't happen again, and to use the court order to prevent this from repeating itself.
Why is it always Gauteng that we hear about? Is it because of a large population, or is it governance issues?
It's governance issues. Gauteng used to be one of the most efficient departments of social development in the country. This changed in 2022 when the political leadership changed. The effects of changes became obvious in the 2023-2024 budget. The Premier and the MEC of the time reprioritised expenditure and then took a significant chunk of money away from NPOs. And the NPO budget is an easy one to attack because it can be decided on a year-to-year basis. You can introduce all kinds of specious and spurious criteria as to why you can't give the money. So it means the money comes in, but you as government can withhold it and use it for other things and reprioritise it and channel it for other things. So in 2023-24, they first had a go at reprioritising. Protests succeeded in stopping that. But they did it again this year on even more dubious grounds, where a claim was fabricated to the effect that the Auditor General had made a recommendation and a finding that the entire process of funding NPOs had to be altered. The Auditor General has publicly stated that they made no such finding and no such recommendation, which raises all kinds of interesting governance questions about what were you doing? What were you hoping to gain from trying to alter the process in this way? And it is that which has created this really terrible situation where organisations worked for close to 3 months without funding. The toll it has taken on staff is incredible. The hardship it's caused to people who need services is also been indescribable, and the department has really not taken any responsibility.
Now, you have taken the government to court on behalf of the Gauteng Care Crisis Committee. Is it really the way to go? Because the idea is to get them to pay up. Does it happen?
It's happened very slowly. I mean, one was driven to court because the department was not communicating. What they were saying was often dishonest. You know, initially they even denied there was a budget cut and tried to say that any claims we were making about a budget cut were false and that they were politically orchestrated claims. So, you know, when you're dealing with dishonest individuals, it's hard to make headway, especially when they don't communicate with you directly, but only issue public relations, media, which is creating a particular kind of narrative. So, you know, many attempts to write to them just did not get anywhere. So first we organised a protest and then went to court in order to get an order to make them do what they are required to do in terms of the Constitution.
But we hear so often that there's a court order ordering the government to pay and then they don't pay.
So a court order is the best you can do to try and compel them to do what they need to do. You can use it to go back. And if you can still hopefully use the element of shame. And that did seem to work a little bit with the department in that they didn't want to be seen to not be complying, but it didn't mean that they in any way hurried to pay organizations.
You've mentioned that we could face another crisis in September and possibly next year. What can we do to prevent it?
I think the concern in September, and it's why we need to start working now, are these clauses in these interim contracts. They open up lots of questions. We also have to see that the Premier made this promise that he was going to increase the budget. Well, will the coalition government uphold that? That's something we're also going to have to watch. Because in September there is a suggestion that they could cut budgets yet again, that they could also stop funding to organizations, that they could also introduce new kinds of funding mechanisms. So that has all got to be clarified now. We've got to make it very clear that the department has to act within national policy. There is a national sector funding policy developed by the National Department of Social Development that does not allow the department in Gauteng to invent its own processes and procedures.
Lisa Vetten, thanks for your time and insights.
Thank you, Mia.